You guys, I was trying to do this story on this girl, okay? And I was just putting some information out about the area where she was at. And I was going to do an update because I didn't want people to just totally automatically assume this girl's going to get like human trafficked out or anything. I'm thinking she was going through a manic depression thing or something and mania. But then, like, I just kind of chilled on the story, okay? And I was just like thinking, did anybody find her yet? Because maybe she's like hanging out in an encampment or something over in the area. Because there's a lot of things that could be going on with this. Now it's changed into something really weird. And I'm looking at this. I don't know what to think about it. So it says, father of the missing girl dies in a suicide early in the morning. And I'm kind of like, I don't I don't understand this. Like, what? Okay, even if you were totally depressed about the whole thing, it's not like they found her yet. She could be out here still alive, right? You would still have this hope for that. So I don't understand this action right here. Like, I don't know if it's telling us something else. I really don't. It's really bizarre. So it says, the father of the missing Hawaiian woman, Ryan, has died of an apparent suicide. Why? The 58-year-old father had been searching for his daughter after she missed her connecting flight to New York to LAX. Hannah was supposed to meet with the family on November 8th. He died after jumping off from a parking structure near LAX sometime around 4 a.m. On November 11th. The family members say they received strange texts from Hannah about someone trying to steal her identity. All calls that day went straight to voicemail. The family has not heard from her since. Um, so we're trying to get them to take it seriously, and it's been 11 days. Just because she just because she doesn't have a mental illness, well, I wouldn't say she doesn't. She just probably hasn't been clinically diagnosed or something, unless there's something in this right now. So, and just because she's not elderly doesn't mean something didn't happen to her. Kobayashi was last seen wearing black leggings, tie-dye shirt. Okay, so there was that whole thing on it. Well, the thing was, when I was going through the case, it sounded like it could be her, like just in a manic phase, because I've already covered several cases with this type of thing. So, when I first read it, I was like, she could be on drugs. She may have like went out partying and it sent her into this thing here, and it'll show up. I was actually reading a description of the disorder because actually we had to deal with this with somebody else and nobody knew she had it, and then we didn't find out until about 20 some odd years later. Okay, it was just an insane thing. But I also said the wrong street. I think I said Alameda. It's actually Alvarado because it was actually in tie with the Rampart story. There was a whole thing there with the it was well known that you can get a whole new identity over there. But anyway, it wasn't mainly for purposes of criminal activity, though that's an illegal thing to do. People that were doing it, it was more for basically staying in the country legally. But they're not criminals, like for the most part. So I was just kind of like, oh, it's interesting that the story had this thing, this thing. But anyway, um, I don't know if there's something else going on here, like in addition. So I don't know. I just find it really strange that somebody did that, like in the middle of this, because I know it's a hard case to deal with, but it doesn't mean she's dead. So I wanted to hurry up, and I had this urgency the other night because I was kind of like, I don't want them thinking that, because the mom was going, oh, now I have this fear that somebody drugged her and she's being human trafficked out. And I'm like, not to say that can't happen, okay? But somebody in her condition, like she may have all of a sudden got manic, okay? She may be wandering. She could be literally hanging out in a homeless encampment. I'm not even kidding. Because she said in her text, she's like, I'm on the street. So when they're in that phase, they are delusional, a little delusional. So she could be totally missing for weeks, and it literally said that they could be in this state for like a month. I was like, holy crap. Um, But yeah, so I was kind of like, I have a little hope in this case, but it's just some other thing going on. But because he did that, I don't know if there's some other bullshit going on. I don't know, because I just find this weird. It's not like, oh, they just discovered her body, right? And then when that happens. So no, they're in the middle of like trying to figure out where she's at. So why would he do that? Sometime, I don't know. I can't answer nothing with that thing right there because it's a little left field. But in some of these cases, the guilty parties, do stuff like that. I don't know. I mean, is there any possibility there was some weird setup here? I mean, I don't know. I'm questioning it. The case is strange. I don't know what to say about it. I was just kind of like looking at it because I could pull out some cases that are just like it, but it didn't end well because the reason why it didn't end well is because when they're in a state like that, they can injure themselves. But also somebody can take advantage of them. But again, there's a lot of women that are roaming the streets of LA over there that have been alive for decades, that are still there. They're alive. They may have mental illnesses or whatnot. So that's why I was like, well, I'm not really sure what she did here, but sure, her messaging was strange. So, but when they showed the video, they said they seen her with a guy, but they seen the video, but I don't know. I don't know if there's something else going on here. I don't know. That's just a little strange there. When I looked, this is the only story that came up today, and I was like, what the hell? I just looked last night too because I was trying to tape something else and it took forever, and then I take something else and then something else popped up. But this is what's been going on and on. And I'm trying to get work done. So it's just been difficult. This is awful. This case is awful, you guys. I don't know how it's going to turn out, but just because she's missing right now doesn't mean she's, something, I don't know. There's just things to it. It's just too soon to say because they didn't show, first of all, they didn't even show who she was with. Like, so I can't even go, oh, the guy, like anything about anything. Okay. So they didn't do that. And I'm just thinking maybe the reason why they're not, so they don't, I don't know. I can't tell you what they're doing on this case right now. The texts are definitely like manicky, like they're manicky. So I was like, okay, that's it. That's all I know. But somebody like that could be literally sitting out there with homeless people. They do that. It's just what happens. This one girl went running away from something that wasn't even there. Even when she was talking, saying that she gave all her money away and all that stuff, you don't actually know if there was even a real person that she did that to. That's the thing. You don't have this in your face. You don't know. So, unless, again, there's some other setup, which we've seen that too. So I was like, I don't know. This thing is a hot mess. It's a hot mess. Don't assume that somebody's getting human trafficked out, though. Don't just assume that. That can happen. It could happen if she got on drugs and was totally all like that and she ran across some total psychotic. But that's not. What they did was lure people into the job, and then they would attempt to do that. They didn't kidnap girls off the street, okay, and then do this thing. The way that they operated on things like that, it's always out of allure. It's always out of allure. They're going to try to get somebody on drugs, and then they're going to be like one step further, and then that. That's what was going on down there. But how it is like right now, I don't know. I know it's still bad. I mean, people were, telling me some stories. So I was kind of like, yeah, I mean, I doubt it's like a huge difference from back then, but, that's kind of how it is. There's not a thing where you're just like walking down the street and they just kidnapped you and then they force you into sex slavery. Like that's not exactly how that, that happens. If they suspect that you're homeless and you're in need, then they will dangle something that they think that you want, and then they'll start doing this game with y'all. So that it's more of a thing like that, or a trickery into, hey, we have this job and it's nothing like that, and you come in here and then the next thing you know, they're sitting there trying to do some bullshit. This story is effing me up now. That thing is gonna F me up. I don't think I've read a story like that one. The only time I've seen stuff like that is when someone goes missing and then somebody does this in the middle of the case. It means like they're the guilty party and they totally didn't want to get caught. That's why I'm kind of like left field. I don't know. Maybe it was just random and they just couldn't take even just the thought of it. I don't know. It's something's wrong. But what I was saying on the other one, because I'm gonna just do this new one instead of that old one, because I went through this thing. It was like a long one, and I taped it, and I was like, ugh. So let me tell you something about the rapid bipolar thing. So I had a story that I kept talking about, and it was actually by a person that had that. And some of the signs were so minute, like they were, you wouldn't even question it. When I was a little kid, so I actually saw them from the time that they were like, I guess they were a teen. Like they were a teen at the time, like I was this little kid. And she would talk to me and stuff like that. And one day she told me a story about a movie. And then she's like, oh, I'm friends with so and so from the movie. And they were out here. She gave a story to it and you wouldn't even question it. It was just like, oh, because that could happen. You know, we knew other people too in our family, like some like cartoonists and just oddball people, right? You just wouldn't even think twice about it, mostly as a little kid. So then time goes on. I don't think too much was really off with her other than she was so like serious. There was this level of like seriousness, level of kind of depressed. And it's hard to explain, but it would just be like, oh yeah, date rape, back to college, this thing. And so she's having these conversations with me, and I'm like, at this point, about 19 or so. I don't know. I was like a young teen, and she's like in her late 20s. She was like in her late 20s, pushing 30. I think she was 30 then. Okay. So she has a big manic episode. This is when it happened. So when I was looking at this case, I go, oh, that may be what happened. Is like maybe they actually did have these symptoms, but you didn't notice it. And when I was reading about it, it said that for the most part, they mostly showed depressive symptoms for being bipolar, and the mania is not as common, but she had a up and down. So the rapid, so it goes up and down, up and down. But I never seen her go manic. But I did hear it's a hindsight, you guys. It is so hindsight. But then she had delusional things. So when I'm telling her about my real life stuff, and my real life stuff is way out there, okay? That when she's telling me her thing, it sounds normal. It totally does. Because it was like, oh, I met this football player, and then we're getting engaged, and then we're going to get married, and then shows this picture of them together, okay? You wouldn't think twice of it. It's freaking LA. A lot of people have these situations happen. So, I mean, why would I question it? I'm sitting here hanging out with these other dudes, you know? So then she takes off. Like, I was supposed to stay at her house temporarily, and I'm a minor. And my parents said, go to her place and stay there, and then, you know, look for some place, like some stupid thing. So anyway, when I go over there, she's completely gone. Like I meet her there. Or, no, I think I went and she wasn't even there. Or when I went, I met her for a minute, and then she said she had to go do work, and then she was gone. So we don't know where she was. It was like 2 weeks long. And I get preyed on by some dude. Okay, there was a whole other thing here. But in her house, there was a picture of her and the guy. And I go, oh, that's interesting. And then later, she comes back just for like a hot minute. And then she tells me the story like, oh, they broke off their wedding because he cheated on her like 2 weeks before the wedding. And I totally believed it because he's like a football player. And I go, he sounds like a total pig, like the typical ones. I didn't even question it. It sounded so legit. Like there's nothing in the story where you'd really go, is this even real? No, it was so like it could happen to anybody. It wasn't anything way out there. The one thing that I was thinking at the moment, I was kind of like, I never seen him before. But then you don't think, oh, she's lying, you know? But then even if you did, you wouldn't think, oh, delusional. Like you don't think these things. It was so weird. And then one day she has us go have dinner together, and then she was getting way dark and serious on some serious topics from that time. And I did not want to hear it. Like, I remember I was having anxiety. I was just like, I want to go home, this and that and this and that. And it's just me because I just went through massive trauma. And it's like the last thing I want to do is listen to like date rape topics or some people dying or some weird thing. Yeah, but she was going on like this. And I was kind of like, yeah, it was kind of like hard to sit there with her for a moment. But I didn't think it was flagging me for her. It seemed more my problem than it was hers. But when I was thinking about it, I go, yeah, what an odd thing to start doing. She started talking really serious about these topics, and like when we're just meeting up for dinner. And then so I go home, and like just a little later, like she calls me and she's like, I just got bombed. Yeah, and I can't get contact with you guys anymore because this and that and this and that. But the way the story came up, it sounded totally legit because she's like, the cops are trying to say that I had a part of stealing all this money. And it was the company and something about all these celebrities. They got donations from these celebrities, something, something, something. And I go, I actually don't even know what her job is right now. She used to work with my mom, though, at a legal firm and or something like that. And then so I didn't know what her job was out here, but she said something about getting donations from celebrities or some crap like that. And so I didn't think twice of it because I'm dealing with all these other celebrity people. I was just, again, it's just not anything that you would think twice about. So then she goes, yeah, they said I stole $6 million and I got to pay back $6 million. And I'm like, holy shit. I go, I could tell you right now she didn't steal $6 million because her place don't even have anything. I mean, it's a nice place, but it wasn't like if you took $6 million back then, it's about equal to over $12 million today, okay, or more. And so I was kind of like, holy shit. I know you didn't do it. Like I was kind of like on this trip, like I was like, I know you didn't do it, all this stuff. And then, yeah, then the bombing story came up. Like the bombing story came up. They said that because the people want their money back or something. And they checked underneath their car and they found like a hookup underneath their car. And so then the police had to detonate it or something weird. And it was all detailed. So I was kind of like, how weird is that? And then she's like, and I have to get my name changed and go through this whole thing. And we can't contact you anymore because for your protection. So if anybody comes and asks, you need to tell them that I died, something weird. And so then she tells my mom the story. And then my mom tells everybody she's dead. Okay. So my mom tells everybody back home, including my brother, that she died. And she's dead. Okay. So everybody thinks she's dead right now. And I'm like, okay, this is ridiculous. So then I just tried to forget it for like a long time because I was like, I have nothing to do with that. That's bizarre. And that's technically my mom's friend. And so when these oddball things started happening, I had to rule her bullshit out because I was like, I don't know. She took $6 million or got involved with some bullshit and some people think she took it. Well, she would have been seen with me out eating before this happened, and maybe they think, well, I should know where it is. Like logically, it's like some bullshit like that. Yeah, I mean, if somebody took $6 million from me, I would be pretty pissed. I need to get my money back. So I was thinking about it, and I was like, well, maybe some of these conducts are from her bullshit. So I need to figure out where she's at because I know she changed her name and I know she's somewhere, but I don't know where. And I'm like, I can't go to the cops because I think she's under witness protection program. That's what I thought because they were talking about a bombing thing. So then in my story, a bombing happened later And also in the story prior, when she said, okay, so before she told me the story, the other story was that the drug dealer had a pipe bomb in the apartment. But I didn't know that. So I wasn't running around bombing stories. It wasn't until it came into the media and they said they had to detonate the pipe bomb that was in the apartment. But it didn't go off when I was there or anything like that. So there was a lot of bombing stuff in the early 90s. So it wasn't way out there, you know? So then the story in the mid 2000s, they bombed a neighbor to take the guy into jail, you know, into prison. And then it ended up bombing us because they just did that bullshit. So I was like, yeah, so I mean, we got bombed. And then there was another bombing. I was like, there was actually another bombing in our story from the Van Nuys division. I assume they were trying to bust in somewhere and it shook the neighborhood. Um, so it's a crazy story, but it wasn't unbelievable. It was just like, I don't know what the hell she got involved in. So then finally, I get a hold of a family member because I see that she's staying over somewhere. I found her. It took about 20 years to figure this out, even though it was like 30 years long or something. I was trying to locate them to see if I can get any answers in the story. And finally I did. I found a family member and I talked to them and they explained the situation to me and it was actually really interesting. So basically there was a mix of like truth into the bipolarness, okay? So one of the stories she brought up, I go, "Oh yeah, I remember her saying that," which is strange. So one of the things she did do something kind of wrong, okay? I guess she took some money, but she's in a manic phase, I guess, or something weird. But to try to protect me, she made up that story so she would just separate herself from us, like completely. So she didn't want to harm us or anything like that. And I guess she was so delusional. The officers told the family, and then they tell me now, you know, and I was sitting there going, oh, thank God I could rule this story out though, just generally, because I was like, what the hell? Um, but I kind of wanted to talk about it because it was like, it was hard to, you wouldn't really know though. Like they had these symptoms, but why would I question it? Because I'm dealing with these celebrities over here, okay? And I know that there's people out here that don't even know that I actually really do know these people. They think I'm making it up, I think. But no, I do. And so that's why I was here. And but so for me, I'm like, oh, I'm dealing with all these people, so why would I question that this person here is going to be making up some bullshit like that? Because everybody does out here, because that's just kind of like what everybody's jobs are, you know, you work around a lot of these people. And why would you know, I don't know. It just wasn't a thing other than I didn't see them together, but I saw a picture of them together. But anybody can get a picture with themselves together with them. And apparently they did meet. They met like in an area and they said she used to hang out and talk with them all. Yeah, but then she turned the story into it was delusional. But how the hell am I supposed to know that? You know, that's how that went. So I was like, yeah, so this girl right here, it could have very well been the thing that she was dealing with the depressive part throughout this whole thing. And she went off and maybe she had a party night or just snapped because of something. I have no idea. Or somebody else is involved. I mean, somebody else here now. So I was like, I don't know. But that very well, that's what that sounded like right in those texts. And I was kind of like, yeah, dude. So, yeah. And then they have a manic episode and it said the mania could last like a day to like a month or something like that. It could last a little while. And they stay up. The other addition to it is, I mean, they stay up. It's like being on meth. Like they always kind of seem like they're on meth to me, but they will stay up. They can't sleep. They're totally that. And so then she could be wandering. They just wander and they're all paranoid. They get all paranoid and all weird and everything else and delusional. They get delusional, and because she's delusional, she's not going to care about her phone. Like, she may have actually chucked her phone, and then she's delusional. We don't know what's going on up there. And then she could be hiding out. They said she was wandering the streets, so she could be just hiding out with just a bunch of strange people in a whole different state. And that's what I was thinking what happened here. So I was like, yeah, she's still at risk. She's at risk because she's in that state. But I was kind of like, yeah, because the other stories, some people got harmed. They harmed themselves accidentally in that state. So yes, they're in danger. I mean, they're in danger in the sense that they can't control what's going on. We saw Ellen DeGeneres's ex go into a state like that. But that's like an addition because I think I don't know if she was drinking or she does other stuff, and then she had an episode and then she ends up getting herself harmed and killed, right? So that's why. So I was like, yeah, as long as, but she could be totally fine with a group of people that know she's kind of off and they might not actually do anything. I mean, it's just, they're not all dangerous out there technically, but there's some, like there's some. So it's hard to know. But the dad doing this, I don't know. It made me think something. I don't know, you guys. Let's hope that's not the thing in it. Because I was kind of like, I don't know. I just seen it and that's where my brain went. Because there's other cases of that. And I was like, oh, wow, no, don't. I can't imagine. It would have to be some weird setup. I don't know. I can't tell you. I don't know. It may just not, it may be just as it is like that. I just think that's pretty crazy. It's like nobody knows what happened to her yet. She could be still just wandering around, you know? So I want to talk about that because that was interesting. Yeah, because a lot of people have bipolar disorder. But the other thing is that they hallucinate. They get delusional. And you would, dude, after 7 days being up. Yeah, like they'll get worse. I mean, that's like, and yeah, drugs and drinking can trigger it. So I was just kind of like, yeah, it sounds like that to me. It sounded like that to me. Or it's somebody making themselves sound like somebody typing to make them sound like they're having an episode. My thing with the text, because I've gone through so many cases, is that in these cases where I'm always like, I don't think they typed it. Because they usually try to be like nonchalant, like not flagging you, like, oh, I'm going to go take off with the friend something, something, to make you think like they did something else and it's not like really obvious. And then in this one, it's like, hey, I'm losing my freaking mind. Keep it on the low. Don't call the cops. Like this weird thing, weird thing, weird thing. And it's kind of like if you're trying to evade the cops, like, and to not let people know that you did something to somebody, like, I don't know why you would type that. Unless the MO is to make it seem like she just went nuts and then somebody did something. But they actually have her on video. So that's why I'm like, it actually goes along with that version of her actually going manic than it does somebody trying to make her sound like she went nuts and then did something to her. Because when they were showing her, she was out at the, I guess the Grove. I used to have a friend that lived right there at the Grove. So I know where that is. So when they were showing it, she looked a little spaced out there. So yeah, it could be that. That's what I was saying. It's just what it is. Yeah, the spiritual awakening thing, the Matrix, and the I'm wandering in the street. Those three things right there, mania. She might be fine, you guys. I'm just saying, she could just be sitting there kicking it with some homeless people, honestly. And I'm just kind of like, I'm not nearby there right now, so I can't, really just, take a little cruise around, But that's kind of like, something that could be going on. She could literally be under a bridge. I keep saying there's like tons of places, and she could have just found some people and they said, come and hang out with us. Totally. In a safe way, actually, believe it or not. You just don't, depending on who she runs across. But yeah, like she could be in such a daze that people are like, do you have any family? She'd probably go, no, no. They could make up a whole other different story. The other lady completely changed her entire identity and still has today. That's why I was like, yeah, and they just stayed that way. So I was like, okay. They really did. That's why the story came together because it seemed so real because I was like, all the things that they said showed up except one thing. One thing didn't show up. The bombing. Okay, so here's the thing with the bombing thing. So before anybody go hiding or any of this stuff, like you would think there would be at least a police report that a bombing happened at an apartment. Like they would have put like some call, something, this happened, some incident, right? So I was looking for the incident report and something on it. However, when I looked at the bombing for our case, the one that happened on our street, I couldn't find anything. But what I did find, I had to go deeper into our thing because I was trying to figure out like why they took an army tank onto our street. And I go, how come there was no like media? Like, what the hell is that? And so then when I looked into it, the house that they did it from, they have one of the guys there at the Fed pen over in a different area. So I was like, it did happen. He got like 20 years. So I was like, I don't know what the hell that dude did, but what the hell? And, but yeah, so they did a bombing to get this guy. And all I know is that after it happened, there was these like total conservative Karens, okay? They came out. It was so stupid. It was like legitimately stupid. They came out and they built this like table, like they're doing some bullshit, like some protest, right? They did this like table across the street from the house on this like horse property or something. And they put this like table and they put no drugs in the area. We don't want drugs in the area. So it had something to do with drugs. I think it might have been connected to the cartels or something. It was like I think it was part of a cartel sting. I'm thinking. I swear to God, I was like, what? There's like one dude in a trailer. It was like, they were there forever, and I was just like, what in the hell is this shit? So, and I never seen anything weird other than he lived in this little trailer on that family's property, and then they go freaking taking a big ass army tank and just like fucking blew up the damn fucking street, and they don't even care. Or they take them out. They had the whole street like yellowed off, and I was just like, thank you for giving me a heads up and just effing my head up with a concussion bomb, I guess. It was like some type of concussion bomb. So I was trying to find the incident to that, but I have never found it. I found that they did an operation blah, blah, blah on them. And they said, what it said was in various locations in Los Angeles. That's what it said. So I was like, I think it might be related to that. That was the only connecting thing I could find on it. Yep, so I couldn't find it. So I was like, so it's not necessarily the flag to it. I was just kind of like, well, unless they just purposely didn't let anybody run the story because it's something totally fed something. I don't even know. But yeah, no, there was nothing. So that was something that I was having a problem with because I go, damn it, if there was a bombing at my apartment, it would have made like the news, right? Like if you had a bombing at the apartment, it would typically make a headline of some sort, like call to something, and it wasn't there. So yeah, I mean, it's just sometimes the stories that they give you is just like a mix of truth with a delusion, and it's so like, what the hell? And it's usually not, I wouldn't even call that story way over the top. It's like it could happen. I mean, there's lots of stories out here where people do that, like they get busted for stealing money and stuff, and then then you have these people trying to go after people to get their money. So it wasn't, that's just the thing. There was this level of like, oh yeah, It totally could happen. You wouldn't really like go in this thing about it. Versus if she told me she got lost in the Matrix, then yeah, then I'd be like, I don't know what freaking acid she popped over there. But I was like, yeah, no, it wasn't anything like that. It was really detailed. Like the way she was telling me it, it made it believable. So I was like, yeah, that's the difference. And it's hard to tell. The ones that are saying like really, really out there stuff, she's just in a major, major thing there. And it could be the addition that she's on drugs. It could be that. It could be. I'm just saying, I wanted to share it because there's some people that haven't, and it doesn't show up really until later. Like, obviously later. Like, it did show up. It did show up. It was the hindsight. I go, yeah, there was these little tidbits, and we never questioned it, and there was no reason to question it. But I'm pretty certain she didn't know any of these people from the movie now. Like, when I was thinking about it, because it's kind of like, I don't know how she would know them. Because they're in Hollywood. They're not from out here. So I was trying to figure it out. I was like, oh yeah, I was even saying this. If I go, yeah, our family friend was like friends with such and such in this one movie. And how interesting. Blah, blah, blah. And then it's so weird thinking about it now, kind of going, why would she even say that though? I don't know what the purpose is to make up that story right there. Because the people in the movie were kind of like, I don't know, like you wouldn't care. It wasn't even like these big, big famous people. It was just like an 80s movie, and it was like somebody that played this like weird part in the movie. And it was just like, why would you make that up? I don't know. It's not like, oh, I know Brad Pitt. It's not nothing like that. So that's why I said I go, it was this level of like believability. It's like on a level. But to me in my mind, I'm thinking like they must know on a level that they're full of shit. I don't know. I'm just saying it's just on this level. So I don't know. Or maybe it's the coming down part where they're like, oh, I was like, what did I say? And then they purposely cover up for it, maybe. Like when they're saying it, they're in mania, in their manic state. But when they're coming down, maybe they realize that they said all this crazy stuff and then they're sitting there covering it up. Like on some level, it seems like they have some type of knowledge that what they say is kind of bullshit. Because I caught another lady going on like this, and she ends up getting the choppers on me. And then when the cops come, she made up a whole different story. I go, well, that's a level of showing that she knows what she did. So I don't know if it's just that she went into a total freak out and then was trying to say that some person broke into the property. It's like, hello, there's like a tank of people that live here. I was like, yeah. And they came and they knew who I was. They're like, you live here, right? I go, yeah. And they walked back up to her and was talking to her. I go, how come they don't arrest her, man? She's psychotic. Like, what the hell is that? I don't know who would just randomly call the cops without knowing for sure that there's some actual strange person. It just doesn't make any sense. So they go into these phases. She's constantly done that. She accused some other people of looking into the house when it was actually one of the people that live here. And I'm just like, yeah, it took a little while to put it together. Like, they have a lot of problems. They have that and then other things. Me, they assume I have that and then I don't. Like, that's just like the opposite. It's like I could make a joke of it because it's just like, I'm not stupid. It's like, I know the stories are absolutely cracked out. They're freaking crazy, but they're real and you're seeing it mostly with the Diddy story. I told you guys, these people I ran across as a kid and the story is just insane. I go, these people were wandering the street and they had a kid with them in the open and it was like, what the fuck? And I was like, I've never seen anything like this in my life. And everybody's acting like it's all normal. It's just Hollywood. There's so many weirdos in Hollywood. I'm like, dude, no. Even for Hollywood, what I saw was insane. This little gangster dude. And I'm just like, no. Like, they were decked out. It wasn't like the typical street G's. Because those dudes don't have all that, okay? They're out here like they may be robbing and shit and getting shoes and all that. But these guys look straight out of a video. Like it was like, what in the hell is this? And yeah, I believe that that's the connecting thing with those guys. And I was like, yeah, they were allegedly just got done recording. And then don't ask me what the hell is going on right here. I mean, I don't know why they're doing that crap right there, but they weren't really famous yet. So extracurricular activities. I was like, that's what that shit is right there. Pretty bad. And that one, they did have a kid. That's what I said. I go, they're talking about them being all with kids right now. I go, that was the case that was reported 14 years ago. I go, I didn't know this was happening right now with this. I couldn't foresee that. I was like, I didn't even know who those people were. I go, I just got to report these people. I could just report them by how they look and where they were at and when. So I tell them all that. And then I run across some of the people that fit that description. I was like, oh, holy hell. I goes, did that actually happen here? And I know some people that work with them who I used to be a fan of wants to be a little shit fuck right now. I go, that little thing over there. I was like, that little thing over there. I was like, I'll get some. We got some beef now. I was like, we got some beef now. I'm not a fan. I was like, you're canceled. I'm pretty sure that when I was even mentioning it, because I was suspecting that person actually for a little while, and when I was talking about that stuff, everybody be on cover up mode. You ain't saying nothing. Ain't saying nothing. And it's so weird because in the hindsight, when I'm talking about all of this, it seems like I know about Diddy. And I absolutely had no idea about Diddy. It's kind of strange. Because I was like, oh yeah, there's these gay monsters out here. They're pretty damn bad. And then I was mentioning the Drake, that whole other thing. But I didn't know they were all connected. Nothing at all. I was actually talking about some other people. there is. And then related to the Kevin Spacey side over there in our story. Yeah, so I was kind of like, yeah, I don't know. But wait, wasn't Kevin at his party? Like, I don't know if he was at his party. Oh, yeah, they were hanging out. Kevin's from the city out here in the suburbs. And so it kind of makes some sense. Like, I don't know what the hell he was doing out there in the 90s because I was trying to figure out on all these perpetrators that were driving up to us. I was like, I don't know, man. It could have been Kevin, and we don't even know who that guy is. There was like a guy that pulled us over, and he's like, could you kids help me with something, some information? And I'm all nice and naive, and I'm like, sure. We pull over, and the guy's like doing some crazy stuff, okay? And I was like, I don't even know what the hell. And so then I was like, well, that's something that Kevin would probably do. So was it him? I was like, I don't know.